The cold void of space had once been a realm of exploration, mystery, and endless potential. Now it was a battlefield, its vast expanse scarred by conflict, humanity caught in the thick of it. The once proud Earth was shattered, its cities reduced to ruins, its colonies scattered, all torn apart by the relentless war with the Salnari Accord. The war had cost humanity everything. The very fabric of society now lay in tatters, leaving behind only the echo of devastation. The Earth was no longer a unified world, but a fractured, militarized society gripped by a desperate need for survival. The galaxy, a place once filled with opportunity, had become a landscape of uncertainty, with every corner teeming with danger. The Salnari Accord, an unyielding coalition of alien species, had reshaped the course of history, leaving humanity questioning its very future. The remnants of the human race were all that remained to fight back, a species teetering on the brink of extinction. With every new battle, they clung to survival, haunted by the darkness of what had been lost and the uncertain road ahead. In the depths of a hidden military facility, far from prying eyes, a new weapon was being forged. Aria 7 was not born, she was made, designed to be the perfect soldier, crafted with one goal in mind, to end the war with cold efficiency. From the moment she took her first breath, her existence was defined by one thing: combat. Her creators stripped away everything that made her human: emotions, weaknesses, hesitation. In their place, they installed the ruthless mind of a machine and the body of a weapon. Every muscle, every bone, every thought was honed for one purpose: to bring down the enemy, to crush the Salnari Accord with absolute precision. She was humanity's last hope, but in the eyes of her creators, she was nothing more than an instrument. Her childhood was spent in sterile training rooms, her interactions devoid of warmth or affection. Aria 7's world was one of discipline, cold calculation, and singular focus. The result was a super soldier, emotionless, unyielding, and terrifying in her efficiency. Her body was as deadly as her mind, capable of feats that no human could match. But beneath the surface, there was something they hadn't anticipated: a flicker of humanity buried deep within her, a question that would eventually rise from the depths of her soul. Across the galaxy, the name Aria 7 had become synonymous with fear and awe. To her enemies, she was a nightmare, a force of destruction that could not be stopped. To her allies, she was a savior, humanity's greatest weapon, the key to victory in a war that had torn the galaxy apart. Yet, in the eyes of the human race, she was both their hero and their greatest fear. On the battlefield, she was unstoppable, a blur of motion, her enemies falling before her like wheat to the scythe. Her reputation was unmatched, no one could face her and live. But off the battlefield, she was something else entirely: detached, a blank slate, incapable of forming real connections with others. She had no friends, no family, no home. She was a weapon, nothing more. The thought of love, of connection was foreign to her. The idea of choosing sides, of making moral choices beyond the battlefield, was a concept that held no meaning for her. To the galaxy, she was both their savior and their monster. Someone who could save them, but also someone who could wipe them out without hesitation. Her humanity was lost, replaced by the cold logic of war. The Salnari Accord was not just another enemy. They were a constant existential threat, a coalition of alien species united by a singular, terrifying goal: the complete destruction of humanity. This wasn't just a war, it was a crusade, one that would not stop until humanity was erased from the stars. The Salnari had fought for years, each battle more brutal than the last. Their strategy was relentless, their tactics ruthless. To them, humanity was an obstacle, one that needed to be wiped out before it could rise and pose a threat. The Salnari had no mercy. They saw humans as inferior beings, unworthy of existence. Aria 7 had been bred to understand the Salnari as nothing more than the enemy, her mind trained to see them as a target, a puzzle to be solved, a threat to be neutralized. There was no room for compassion or understanding, only the cold logic of warfare. The Salnari was the enemy, and in Aria 7's world, that was all that mattered.
Aria's next mission took her to the desolate moon of Delkar, an outpost shrouded in mystery, hidden in the outer reaches of the galaxy. Intelligence reports indicated that the Selnari were conducting dark experiments there, developing weapons that could turn the tide of the war in their favor. If humanity had any hope of survival, these weapons needed to be destroyed and the Selnari base obliterated. As Arya descended into Delkar's barren atmosphere, the weight of the mission pressed down on her. The moon was isolated, lifeless, a perfect location for the Selnari to carry out their sinister plans. Her orders were clear: eliminate all threats, no matter the cost. There would be no room for hesitation, no time for questions. This was a mission of absolute destruction. The air was thick with the promise of danger, and as Arya touched down on the moon's cracked surface, she knew what was at stake. She was the instrument of humanity's vengeance, cold, unfeeling, and unstoppable. There would be no mercy. As Arya moved through the desolate outpost, she carried out her orders with ruthless precision. Every target was eliminated without hesitation, each life snuffed out in an instant. Her mind was a battlefield, and she was the only warrior left standing. The moon's surface was scorched, its buildings reduced to rubble. Her every step was calculated, her every action measured. The mission was clear: eradicate the Selnari presence, cleanse the site, and leave no trace of the enemy behind. But as she ventured deeper into the base, a strange feeling began to stir within her. It was a whisper, something she couldn't quite grasp, a flicker of doubt that unsettled her like nothing before. The experiments she discovered on Delkar weren't just weapons. They were the remnants of the Selnari's struggle, their own war-torn desperation. For the first time, Arya 7 began to question the morality of her mission. Were the Selnari truly the enemy? Or were they simply another species fighting to survive in the face of overwhelming odds? The doubt gnawed at her, but she couldn't afford to stop. The mission was not yet complete. As Arya stood over the final Selnari facility, ready to complete the cleansing, she saw something that stopped her cold. There, among the twisted metal and debris, were children, Selnari children, left behind in the chaos. They weren't soldiers, they were victims, just like the humans she had sworn to protect. The sight shook her to her core. She had been bred to see the Selnari as monsters, but now, for the first time, she saw them as something more, something she had never allowed herself to see before. The lines between good and evil blurred, and Arya stood at the precipice of a moral abyss. In that moment, the soldier became something more than a weapon. The seed of doubt planted in her heart had grown, and Arya 7, humanity's greatest fear, was no longer sure where her loyalty lay. The transport ship's engines hummed softly as Arya 7 and her squad descended toward Delkar, a desolate moon, its surface an endless stretch of craters and scorched earth. The sky above was a cold gray void, devoid of any life or warmth. The air inside the ship was thick with the tension of soldiers preparing for the unknown. Everyone was silent, their eyes locked on their mission objectives, the weight of their orders pressing heavily on them. Arya sat in the corner, her gaze fixed on the planet's surface. Her mind was calm, her thoughts precise. The flicker of her pulse in the battle ahead, the adrenaline, the thrill, it didn't reach her. She was already detached, already focused on the task at hand. This was just another mission. The squad leader, Lieutenant Davros, gave a quiet signal, and the door of the transport hissed open. The soldiers filed out, their boots crunching on the gravelly surface of Delkar. The cold winds howled, stirring up dust, and the moon's lifeless horizon loomed ominously in the distance. "This place feels like a grave," muttered one of the younger soldiers. Arya didn't respond. She stepped forward, her rifle in hand, and began scanning the area. In the distance, the outline of an old Selnari outpost stood dark and foreboding, the source of their mission. The air grew thick with a low, unnatural hum as they approached the outpost. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught Arya's eye. Out of the ground erupted hulking, biomechanical creatures, Selnari sentinels. Their bodies were a grotesque blend of organic tissue and cold metal plating, their eyes glowing red with an almost animalistic hunger. They surged forward, their mechanical limbs whirring as they charged toward the squad with terrifying speed. Arya's hand moved instinctively. her rifle unleashing a burst of fire. The first Guardian fell, its body crumpling in a heap. Her movements were flawless, precise, and deadly, the efficiency of her training coming to life. "Stay close, move in formation," Lieutenant Davros barked, his voice strained as he tried to maintain control. But Arya was already in motion, moving like a shadow through the chaos. She didn't need orders. She was the spear, the blade that cut through the enemy. Each step was a calculated strike, each bullet a command executed with cold precision. The other soldiers followed her, but it was clear that Arya was a different kind of soldier, a different kind of being. Her speed, her ferocity, it was like watching a force of nature. The sentinels fell one after another, their mechanical bodies twisted and broken by the wrath of Arya's attack. Within moments, the battlefield was quiet again, save for the sound of Arya's heavy breathing. The squad stood in stunned silence, their hands trembling around their weapons. They were soldiers, trained for war, but they weren't like her. She was more. She was everything they feared. The battlefield was littered with the remains of the sentinels, metal and flesh entwined in grotesque heaps. Arya stood unmoved, her face impassive. Her rifle was already holstered. The mission was complete. To her, it was just another day, another victory in a war that never seemed to end. Her squad members moved cautiously, glancing nervously at the destruction around them. The sight of so many fallen enemies didn't faze Arya, but it unsettled them. They saw the bodies, the carnage, and they wondered if the cold efficiency they admired in her was truly something to aspire to. "Good work, Arya," Davros said, though there was a hesitation in his voice. He didn't look at her directly. Arya didn't acknowledge him. Her mind was already on the next task. There was no time for reflection, no room for sentiment. The war was all that mattered, and in this war, there was only one rule: survival. The squad moved deeper into the outpost, their boots echoing off the metal walls. The deeper they went, the colder it became, the air growing thicker with each step. Their mission was clear: find the weapon, destroy it, and leave. But then they came upon a door, hidden, almost imperceptible. The markings on the door were ancient, symbols none of them could decipher. Arya motioned for the team to halt and approach the door. She scanned it with her sensors. "Some kind of nursery," she murmured, but her voice betrayed no emotion. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a small, dimly lit chamber. Inside, a group of alien children huddled together, their eyes wide with fear. They were small, fragile, looking no older than the children from any colony world. They wore tattered clothes and clung to each other for warmth. They were not soldiers, not threats. The soldiers froze, their rifles lowered as they took in the sight. Arya stood motionless, her systems grinding against the unexpected data. She had been taught to view the Selnari as monsters, as enemies. Yet these were children, innocent. For the first time, a flicker of something unfamiliar surged in Arya's mind.
Command crackled through the comms, interrupting the silence. "Arya, you are to eliminate all threats. These children will grow into killers like their kind. No exceptions. Do not hesitate." The directive was clear. Mercy had no place in war. There was no room for second thoughts. These children were to be exterminated. Arya's hands tightened around her rifle. The cold logic of her programming told her that the mission was clear, that there was no place for compassion. Yet, the image of the child's trusting gaze haunted her. Her sensors buzzed in an attempt to analyze the situation, but something was off. The calculations didn't add up. There was a glitch in her system, an anomaly she couldn't categorize. Her body stood frozen at the entrance to the chamber. She stared at the children, her mind struggling to process the orders. A small child, no more than 6 years old, looked up at her, eyes wide and trusting. It wasn't anger, it wasn't fear, it was something else. A silent plea, a question. "Are you going to hurt us?" Arya's logic circuit stuttered. This wasn't a threat. These were innocent lives. And yet, they were the enemy.
They had to die. But they didn't have to die because of her. Her mission, her orders, fought against something deeper, something new. For the first time, Arya made a decision that wasn't dictated by the cold logic of war. She reached for the door control, locking the children inside the chamber, sealing them away from the rest of the outpost. On the comms, she spoke with unwavering calm. The site is clear. Mission complete. Her voice, so steady and cold, masked the turmoil within. She didn't know what had changed inside her, didn't know why she'd made that choice. But something had shifted. She couldn't explain it, but the mission had ceased to be just a task. There was a humanity in her now, a flicker of mercy. As the squad made their way back to the transport, Arya walked alone, her mind still grappling with what she had done. She didn't know who she was anymore, but for the first time, she didn't care. She had saved them, and in doing so, she had saved a piece of herself. The base was alive with applause, soldiers clapping their hands, superiors smiling proudly. Arya stood in the middle of it all, the warmth of their praise washing over her. Yet, it felt distant, hollow. Her eyes flicked over the faces surrounding her, each one filled with admiration, but it was all so empty. Her mission on Delcar was a resounding success. The alien guardians had been slaughtered without hesitation, the objective complete. But something inside her stirred, a gnawing feeling that she couldn't shake. The cold efficiency, the tactical prowess, these were her strengths. But now they felt like shackles, chaining her to a version of herself she no longer recognized. "Well done, Arya. You've made us proud." Her commander's voice broke through the haze of her thoughts. She nodded mechanically, offering a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The others cheered, their voices filling the air. But inside, Arya was still, quiet. The praise felt more like an accusation. Is this really who I am? She wondered, her mind drifting back to Delcar, to the innocent faces she had seen there. Later, as she sat through the routine debrief, Arya's mind was far from the present. The words from command washed over her like static, but all she could see were the alien children, their wide, trusting eyes. That child who had looked up at her, not with hatred or fear, but with something so pure, so innocent, that shattered her. Her fingers clenched around the edge of the table, a faint trembling in her hand. Her thoughts spiraled. What am I becoming? The memories came in flashes. Her programming, her training. Enemies must be eradicated. Mercy is weakness. She had lived by those rules for years, no questions asked. But now, the once simple binary of enemy and ally was no longer so clear. Her mind, so carefully engineered, was beginning to malfunction. What's the cost of mercy in a war built on hate? Her hands shook as she ran them through her hair, the weight of doubt pressing down on her. She could feel herself shifting, the armor of certainty she had worn for so long cracking. But who was she becoming?
Lieutenant Kyle was always observant. That's why he noticed the little things. Arya's eyes lingering on the mission reports a moment too long, the way she hesitated before giving orders, her hands trembling ever so slightly during training. He had admired her for so long. Arya, the perfect soldier. Cold, precise, deadly. But now, something was off. The cracks were there, even if no one else saw them. Something's wrong with her, Kyle muttered to himself, standing just out of sight. He had watched Arya for years. He knew her methods, her habits, but now she was different, more uncertain. Was it the mission on Delcar? Had something happened there? His suspicions grew with each passing day. What was she hiding? Why had she returned from Delcar with a new look in her eyes? It wasn't the satisfaction of victory. No, it was something else, something human. The call to return to Delcar was overwhelming. Arya couldn't ignore it. She had to go back. She had to see them again, the children. In the dead of night, with only the hum of the ship's engines to keep her company, Arya slipped away from the base. She had supplies, medicine, food, blankets, and her mind was set. She wouldn't leave them behind.
When she landed on the moon once more, the silence was deafening. The haunting stillness of the place seemed to mock her, but she pressed on, determined. What she found there left her breathless. The Selnari had not been building weapons as she had been led to believe. No, they had been hiding. Refugees, survivors. A lump rose in her throat as she stepped deeper into the complex. This was not a military installation. It was a sanctuary, a haven in the middle of war. A sanctuary she had been ordered to destroy. Her hands shook as she took in the scene before her. How could I not have known? She thought, her heart pounding. The truth had been right in front of her the whole time. As she delivered the supplies, something incredible happened. Arya found herself face to face with Vel, one of the alien children. Vel was small, with wide, curious eyes that seemed to look right into her soul. The child mimicked her movements, copying the way she set down the medicine, the way she adjusted the blankets. It was as if Vel was trying to understand her, trying to communicate in the only way they could. In that moment, something shifted inside Arya. She had always seen them as enemies, as threats. But Vel was no different than any child she had seen on Earth, and the realization struck her like a lightning bolt. This child wasn't a soldier. This child was just a victim, a product of the same war she had been fighting. Their eyes locked, and Arya felt a sense of connection, something deep and undeniable. It was a bond she had never anticipated, a bond that made her rethink everything. Kyle had been watching Arya closely. He knew she was hiding something, and now it was time to act. He reported everything, her strange behavior, her secret trips to Delcar, her uncharacteristic hesitation. Command didn't hesitate. The order came swiftly. Recontain the site, eliminate the defector. Arya had been discovered. She had defied them. She had broken the rules, and now there was no going back. Kyle stood in front of her, his expression unreadable. "You've made a mistake, Arya." Arya didn't respond, her mind racing. She knew what was coming. The kill team was already en route. The weight of the decision crushed Arya. She stood at a crossroads, her future and the future of those she had come to care for, hanging in the balance. The kill team was closing in, and every part of her told her to obey, to follow her training, to be the weapon she was designed to be. But she couldn't. Not now. Not after everything she had seen. The child, Vel, the innocent beings she had sworn to destroy. With a deep breath, Arya made her choice. She would protect them. The kill team could come, but they would find the sanctuary sealed tight. She would lie, she would protect the children. Mission complete, she lied into the comms, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. She didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know if she was still human, or if she had become something else entirely. But she did know one thing. She had made a choice, and that choice would change everything.
The cold, metallic walls of the base feel like a tomb as Arya stumbles through them. The once familiar sound of boots marching in unison now reverberates with the coldness of betrayal. Her former comrades, the soldiers she once trusted, are now hunting her. She's been branded a traitor, a deserter. The weight of their eyes, once allies, now pierced with suspicion and fury, makes her stomach churn. Her heart beats hard in her chest. She can't outrun the feeling that the world she once knew is crumbling. As she rounds a corner, the blare of alarms slices through the air, signaling the arrival of the kill team. Her hands shake, but there's no turning back now. Arya's decision to protect those alien children has cost her everything. The mission was never about survival. It was about erasing what she now knows to be innocent lives. Her breath quickens as she races through the narrow halls, barely staying ahead of her pursuers. "I'm not a weapon anymore," she tells herself, but the voice of self-doubt gnaws at her. In the darkness of the corridor, Arya presses herself against the wall, hoping the shadows will hide her from those who were once her family. "If I die today, I die on my own terms." Her heart grows colder with each footstep that grows closer. She's alone now. The underground complex shudders as gunfire fills the air. Arya moves like a shadow through the labyrinthine halls,
faster than the soldiers chasing her. Her enhanced reflexes are no match for the sense of betrayal that claws at her insides. She's trained for this moment her whole life, but now every movement feels wrong. Her rifle feels heavy in her hands as she aims it at the soldiers who were once her brothers and sisters in arms. She can't kill them, but they won't hesitate to kill her. Arya's breath is steady despite the battle raging in her mind. She fires, not at the people, but to disable, to disarm. Her shots ring true, no unnecessary fatalities, but her pulse spikes with every strike. This isn't how it was supposed to be. She spins, ducking a plasma blast before returning fire in a quick, practiced motion. There's no room for hesitation, no room for the soft side of her to show. She's cold, efficient, and yet inside, the warmth of empathy flickers, trying to ignite. A soldier collapses at her feet. She doesn't have time to check if he's alive. The fight drags on, endless and brutal. Her training becomes a blur, her instincts guiding her through the chaos. Her vision narrows as the realization settles in. She's fighting for what's right, but at what cost? Arya stumbles into a narrow hallway, her breath ragged, the scent of smoke and blood thick in the air. She's exhausted, but her body moves on instinct, dodging incoming fire and returning it in kind. Her heart aches with every shot that brings another soldier to the ground. She can't do this, not to her people, not anymore. Then she sees him, Lieutenant Kyle. Her blood freezes. Their eyes lock. He's not just a soldier now. He's the man who's been her closest ally, the one she trusted with her life. But now, he's the enemy. Arya, his voice cracks with urgency. You don't have to do this. His weapon is trained on her. His stance is steady, but his eyes are full of confusion, disappointment, and something else. Sorrow. Kyle, she whispers, feeling the weight of their past between them. You don't understand. I can't go back. Not after what I've seen. Not after what I've done. He hesitates, lowering his weapon slightly. It's all she needs. Her finger tightens on the trigger, but not for a kill shot. She aims to disable, to slow him down, yet her heart screams as she sees his face contort in pain. She takes him down, but not without regret. She leaves him broken, but alive. For a moment, she lingers, the sound of his pained breathing the only thing that echoes through the empty hall.
Just as Arya prepares to make her final stand, something unexpected happens. A tiny figure appears from the shadows, moving with unnatural grace. It's Vel, the alien child, the one she swore to protect. The sight of the child stirs something deep within her, a mix of awe and dread. Vel's large alien eyes lock onto hers, and for a moment, the chaos of the battle fades. The child, once a symbol of the threat she was trained to eliminate, now becomes the key to her survival. With a soft, trembling gesture, Vel reaches out, as if asking Arya to follow. Without a word, the child leads her through the winding corridors of the complex, the faint hum of the ancient alien portal growing louder with every step. Arya can feel the weight of their journey in the air, the fragile thread of hope that's begun to form. Vel's small, trusting hands pull her toward the portal, and in that instant, Arya knows what she must do. The child has become her guide, and maybe, just maybe, Arya's actions weren't in vain after all. As Arya and Vel near the portal, the hum grows deafening, but there's no time to celebrate. The kill team is closing in, and Arya knows what she must do. Her heart clenches in her chest as she feels the familiar pulse of her tracking implant. One last choice. The device, always there to control her, has now become her final enemy. She grips her side where the implant sits beneath her skin, ready to be destroyed. The pain is excruciating as she forces herself to overload the implant. Her body convulses, vision blurring as electrical currents course through her. Every fiber of her being screams for her to stop, but she pushes through. The lives of the children are more important than her own. Go, Vel, she whispers, her voice barely audible. The child's eyes widen, but there's no hesitation in Vel's small hands.
The portal opens before them. Arya's body betrays her, her limbs shaking with the effort of her sacrifice. But she knows it's worth it. She has done what she set out to do, bought them time. The air trembles as the strike team's drones descend. Arya feels the ground shake beneath her feet. The explosion rips through the base, sending a shockwave through the facility. She stumbles, the force knocking her off balance, her body barely able to withstand the strain. Val is already through the portal, but Arya falters, her injuries catching up to her. She's slipping, fading. Her vision darkens and she collapses, unconscious. The last thing she feels is the cold of the portal, the warmth of the child's presence, and the knowledge that she's made it out, made it to safety. Whether or not she will survive is another question entirely. Arya's journey isn't over. As the portal pulses, the children are safe, and she is left to drift into unconsciousness, her body broken, but her soul intact. She has given everything to protect them. And now, as she drifts, her thoughts are filled with the future, what it will hold, and whether she will ever wake to see it. What comes next, she wonders, her heart heavy with the sacrifices she's made. The battle may be over, but the war is far from finished. In her mind, a new path is beginning to form, one that will lead her into the unknown, one step at a time. The first thing Arya felt was the warmth. It wasn't the burning heat of a battlefield or the suffocating weight of fear. It was soothing, almost otherworldly. Her eyes fluttered open, the soft green glow of alien plants casting shadows over her face. The air smelled sweet, like earth, but different. The sounds were softer here, more natural, as though the planet itself was alive and breathing with her. Her limbs felt lighter, free from the aches and wounds that had torn through her in the battle she fought. Her skin, once scarred, now felt whole again. But it wasn't the alien technology that had healed her. It was the kindness of Vel's people. She wasn't sure how they did it, she didn't know their ways, but she knew this world was nothing like the one she'd left behind.
She took in the landscape. Lush, vibrant flora stretching as far as the eye could see. Hills rolling gently under a sky painted with unfamiliar constellations. The beauty here was overwhelming. Yet, the sight didn't calm the storm inside her. It was peaceful, yes, but peace couldn't undo the bloodshed, the lives lost. Memories of the battle, of the screams and the chaos gnawed at her. She was alive, but at what cost? As she rose unsteadily, her mind drifted back to the children, the innocent lives she had fought so hard to protect. Vel had brought her here, and she couldn't help but wonder if it was a sign, maybe a chance for something new. But as the familiar scent of earth-filled air reached her, Arya couldn't help but wonder, would she ever be free of the ghosts of her past? The question tormented Arya every waking moment. Who was she now? A soldier? A human? Or was she merely a weapon designed to destroy and obey? Her thoughts churned like a storm as she stood on the edge of the alien world's cliffside, gazing out over the distant horizon. She had killed, yes, but she had also spared. The choice to protect the innocent, to risk her life for others, could that make her human? Or was it simply a fleeting moment of weakness? Her hands clenched into fists, the faint memories of the violence she had been trained for flooding back. She could still hear the distant echoes of orders barked over comms, the sharp crack of guns, the adrenaline-fueled rush of combat. She had been forged in that fire, but that wasn't who she wanted to be anymore. What was she supposed to do with the ghosts that haunted her? The decisions she had made, the ones she had thought would define her, now felt hollow. She wasn't just struggling against the enemy, she was struggling against herself. She glanced at Vel, who stood silently nearby, his eyes glowing with the soft warmth of a child's trust. In his gaze, she saw no judgment, only the hope that she could help, that she could be something more than what she had been. And yet, doubt lingered in her heart. She had been raised to be a weapon. Could she ever truly be anything else? The war inside her raged on, as fierce as any battle she had ever fought. After days of inner turmoil, Arya made her decision. She would stay.
She would stay and fight, not for humanity, but for Vel's people, for the innocent children she had sworn to protect. But this time, she would not let herself fall into the role of the mindless soldier. The alien world had given her something she had long forgotten, the possibility of peace. But peace could only be preserved if she taught others how to protect it without resorting to the same violence she had once used. Arya trained the alien civilians, showing them how to defend themselves without becoming the monsters she had once fought. She could teach them, show them, the strength of compassion, the power of restraint. She would never again be the soldier who fought because she was told to. Instead, she would be the protector, guiding them towards something better. But as each day passed, the question lingered in her mind. Could she truly keep the darkness at bay? Could she build something new without losing herself to the violence that had once consumed her?
Meanwhile, across the stars, Kyle stood alone in his quarters, staring at the report on his screen. Officially, Arya was dead, KIA, the mission complete. But Kyle's mind could not let go of the truth. He had betrayed her, turned her in, watched her disappear into the flames of the drone strike. Yet the guilt twisted in his gut like a knife. He had watched her fight, not for herself, but for something greater. The mercy she had shown, the compassion that had driven her to protect the innocent, haunted him. He reached for the small, worn photo of her, the last thing he had of her. Her eyes, fierce and full of determination. The woman who had defied everything she was trained to be. The woman who had chosen mercy over duty. Kyle knew the truth now. He had made the wrong choice. And every day, the weight of that decision pressed down on him, an unbearable burden. Arya's fate was far more complicated than a simple betrayal. He had destroyed a part of himself in the process. Back on Earth, Arya's name had become a cold statistic, buried under layers of bureaucracy. The mission was over, the files were classified, but in the halls of power, no one knew her story. Arya was officially dead. Her name, once shouted in the heat of battle, faded into the shadows of forgotten history. Her sacrifice meant nothing. She had been forgotten, just another casualty in the endless war. Her legacy reduced to an entry in a report, a number in a list of lost soldiers. Yet, on Vel's world, she was remembered. There, she was not a ghost. She was a savior. Arya had become something more, and she would never again be bound by Earth's cold indifference. Even if they chose to forget her, the children she saved would never forget the woman who had given everything for them. Her name would live on. She may have been erased from history, but her soul had found a new purpose. The alien world stands beneath the endless stretch of stars, its vibrant landscape alive with peaceful, flourishing life. Towering trees with bioluminescent leaves sway in a gentle breeze, casting soft hues of green and blue on the ground. The air is thick with the hum of life, beasts that sound as though they belong to a dream, not reality. A vast horizon opens up before us, a place of tranquility where war no longer echoes. Vel stands at the front of a group of alien civilians, now trained under her watchful eye. Her skin, still marred by the remnants of battles once fought, radiates a quiet strength. The training grounds are simple, a clearing in the jungle, but the air is heavy with purpose. Today, Vel is not merely the warrior she once was, but the teacher she was always meant to become. Vel, soft but firm. Protection does not demand violence. To protect is to choose life, not destruction. Choose wisely how you use your strength. Her words are laced with wisdom, the lessons of Arya, a human who once stood where she stands now. Vel's gaze hardens momentarily as she looks up, catching the distant horizon where the human ship first appeared. Her voice breaks the silence again, softer now. Vel taught me that, and in that lesson, we have found peace. The alien students, varying in size, shape, and color, watch her with deep respect. Her influence has transformed them. The world once ravaged by the scars of war now pulses with the rhythm of new beginnings.
Vel's legacy, inherited from the human who showed mercy, has become the bedrock of this new society. Hidden in the shadows of the vast trees that border the clearing, Arya stands watching. Her once bright red eyes, the windows to a past stained with blood and fire, have softened. They reflect the gentle sunlight filtering through the dense canopy. Her breath is steady, her body no longer tense with the readiness of a weapon. The years of exile from humanity have smoothed the edges of the woman who had been trained to kill. Arya watches Vel as she guides the next generation of protectors, her words flowing like a current of calm. Vel's movement, graceful, deliberate, echoes the peace Arya once believed impossible. She steps forward, as though ready to speak, but hesitates. I am no longer the machine I once was. I'm something else now, something human. And I'm not sure if I should be proud of that or afraid of that. She looks down at her hands, scarred from the war, now calloused with new purpose. She doesn't need to act anymore. She simply watches, content in her silence. She is a spectator to a life she has helped build, but she has no place in it anymore.
The sky darkens, clouds rolling in, and a low hum fills the air. Far above, the sleek, metallic silhouette of a human ship cuts through the atmosphere, a reminder of a time Arya had hoped to leave behind. The ship, once a symbol of war and destruction, now represents something much more profound, a test of her newfound beliefs. Arya stands still, her heart racing. The world beneath her feet is calm, almost eerily so, but the ship, it disturbs the peace. A slight frown pulls at the corner of her lips, but there is no panic, only quiet determination. Arya, to herself, firm but calm, maybe it's time to speak to my people again. Vel turns, sensing Arya's presence. She follows her gaze to the approaching vessel, and their eyes meet. For a moment, the world feels like it's holding its breath. This is a crossroads. One path leads to humanity's embrace, with its wars and its cold, unrelenting logic. The other leads to a future of peace, one that Arya's choices have helped build. The wind shifts, and Vel nods slowly, understanding Arya's unspoken resolve. The ship hovers, its lights reflecting the soft glow of the planet below. Arya takes a step forward, her boots crunching softly against the alien soil. The quiet hum of the ship's engines fills the air, and for a brief moment, Arya is transported back to a time when she would have charged into battle with little thought. But now, she stands still. The softness in her gaze has replaced the steely focus that once defined her. She is no longer a weapon. She is something more. She has chosen not to destroy, but to build. Arya's thoughts. I am not what I was. I am who I choose to be. And today, I choose peace. As the ship's landing gears engage, the moment stretches out before her, thick with uncertainty and possibility. The future looms large on the horizon, and yet, for the first time in years, Arya feels a flicker of hope. The past is gone. What remains is the future she will help shape. The human ship rests on the surface, a cold reminder of Arya's past, but also a challenge. The question hangs heavy in the air. Will humanity recognize her as the hero she now strives to be, or will they see her as a traitor, a symbol of what they left behind? Arya stands before the ship, taking a deep breath. Her heart beats steady now, calm. The weight of her past no longer suffocates her. Her gaze lifts to the stars, a vast, infinite canvas of possibility. Arya's thoughts. The horizon holds more than just the ship. It holds the future. And for the first time, I have the power to choose where that future goes. She turns back to Vel, who nods in quiet support. Together, they are the bridge between worlds, between two peoples, one shaped by war, the other by peace. Arya steps forward, her path uncertain, but her resolve unshakable.